Liverpool's been hyping up that kid Rio for a while now. He said that he wants to win a Ballon d'Or as well.
I'd like to win a Ballon d'Or as well, but
I'm just saying.
Everyone knows.
We're seeing a host of young American players playing MLS, playing consistently, getting minutes with their teams. You guys think the U.S. has caught up to the rest of the world in terms of youth prospects?
No. Love Cavan Sullivan. They print Cavan Sullivans at Manchester City, bro.
That's what they say, but they bought him for $6 million.
Okay, fantastic, but they still print them.
But this is what I'm saying. Why would you buy something that you print?
Bro, fair play. But bro reeks of loans for like 3 years.
It makes sense. Like, listen, at the end of the day...
No. There is one thing I will not have with this, right? The United States is better than it once was at producing youth prospects.
Of course.
It is nowhere near on the level of anywhere else. Nowhere near.
I feel like it's one of those things where it's like this. Look, the U.S. has a lot of work to do. The MLS has started in, 1996? These teams have had youth academies since, like, the early 1950s, 1960s. For how far we've come and to produce players who are able to go to Europe at such a young age, it's still an accomplishment.
Dude, yeah, no, I'm not taking anything away. Yeah. But what I won't have is people being like, oh, yeah, we produce Cavan, whose technical quality is unbelievable. Okay, we're here, baby. Yeah. Well done. We've made it. No, it's not how it works, bro.
But I think it's improved so much. I think more so than criticizing it, I think we should talk more about how much it's improved. I mean, we're going from the eras when I can only name a few, like Brad Friedel, your Clint Dempsey, your Landon Donovan, and then all of a sudden now we have American players all over the globe, and they're playing at high levels everywhere. The only issue I have is I think American fans need to slow down on terms of like sort of upping their expectations, putting too much on the younger players.
Yes.
We're seeing that with this generation right now. The Nations League clearly was an indicator that some of these players, I think they're talented players, but it's not even an expectation. It's almost this like authority, this demand that you sit at the table of football and you go, we have dope players. We're going to beat everybody.
Yeah.
I think
I feel like that's just American mindset.
Okay, yeah, but can we be honest, though? If you look at the US men's national team right now, in terms of homegrown players, Ricardo Pepi, Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams, Christian Pulisic, Tim Weah, are a single one of those players world-class?
Probably not. And I think it's not even the issue of me of them being world class or not. I'm just thinking about who's coming up next. I'm not seeing any players come up to take that reign. Like, when Gio Reyna first came up, when Christian Pulisic first came up, like these were names we were like, okay, they could come to the national team and make a difference. Where is that generation of those 18 to 23-year-old prospects? I'm not seeing anybody coming into the national team staking a claim for them to be up next.
Right. So that's what makes Cavan so interesting, though, right? Because you have this maybe like barren period, right? You look at the next 4 to 5 years and go, oh, who's next? But then you have this one kid who's 15, who's signed a homegrown contract, who's going to Man City. Then you're like, all right, could be that lad.
I'm not going to lie. I went to a training session to watch Cavan Sullivan play because, I went back to Philadelphia Union, my old academy. It was incredible to me how in 9 years, everything has changed. We're talking about a 2-story school, 7 soccer fields, kids training twice a day, international teams coming to watch these kids' games every single weekend. So clearly people see the United States as that next pot of players to develop and invest in. But at the same time, for a guy like Cavan, you have to have patience with him. He's 15 years old, and I think Philadelphia Union has done a great job in not putting him in the limelight and saying, hey, look, you're going to come in, play 15 minutes a game, learn how to develop, and then move on from there. But my question is, if Cavan was in Europe right now, do you think he'd be getting first team minutes, or would he be playing under 21s or under 18s?
No one would know who he was. No one would know who he was.
How would you know that?
He's a $6 million player for Man City. Man City probably sold 3 or 4 players for $6 million last summer. This is actually what f***s me off about it, right? Because he's like unbelievable, but that level of talent, it's not standard, but it's like slightly above average at so many places in Europe. The disconnect is incredible.
But I'm also saying that in Europe, this exact same thing happens. Liverpool's been hyping up that kid Rio for a while now. He said that he wants to win a Ballon d'Or as well. He's 15, 16
I'd like to win a Ballon d'Or as well, but
I'm just saying.
Everyone knows.
I'm saying, like, just because an American is saying it, the same thing is happening in Europe right now.
Okay, the obsession with the Ballon d'Or, right? It is a global phenomenon. Everyone suddenly really gives a about this
winning the Ballon d'Or.
Right,
yeah.
But Trent, I want to go to Madrid because I want to win the Ballon d'Or.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I know, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
But the point is like, back yourself. Like, say, like, if you're going to be a podcaster, I want to be the best podcaster. Like, I understand that. But at the same time, it's like, this 15-year-old from, like, Merseyside says he wants to win the Ballon d'Or. Great. It's not going to happen.
For an American kid, what do you think is the ideal pathway of development? Give me a home. You're an MLS homegrown. You're 15 years old. Give me your ideal career path.
Honestly, I
Yes.
think Ricardo Pepi smashed it.
Okay.
I think Ricardo Pepi has smashed it. You go MLS, maybe you play a little bit in MLS. Then you go Eredivisie, German, and then, so Pepi right next might be a German or a Premier League mid-level team. By the time you're 23, 24, then you can think, all right, Big Six Premier League club, or something like that.
Do you think American soccer fans are starting to finally understand, listen, we got to pump the brakes on a lot of prospects?
Maybe, but I mean, just like somebody like Cavan Sullivan, I think he himself carries that swagger. He himself carries that energy that I can conquer it. I could do it. You know what I'm saying? And I love that. Why not have him stay at MLS? Why not have him develop here? It's not always this case of if he stays in MLS, it's going to hinder his development. Just because he's going to make the move across doesn't always necessarily equate to the fact that he's going to develop faster or better. Somebody that comes to mind is Martin Odegaard. I remember when he first popped off, and I think Real Madrid picked him up first, and then they sent him on loans everywhere. And they thought he was done. They thought he was a failed wonder kid, and he was just gone. And then he popped off at Arsenal. I think that's a very rare occurrence for something like Martin Odegaard, but I think that move hinders him. The loans and all this stuff, I think it can actually hurt players. So, for example, like Cavan Sullivan, if he's at Union, why not destroy the MLS with Union first? Conquer it multiple season after multiple season, and before he turns 20 or before he turns 21, whatever, we go, all right, I took over the United. I won USA football. Let me go do something else somewhere
That's
else.
true, but you've also at the same time, doesn't that speak to the way that people actually view MLS on the global scale?
What do you think people view it as?
Well, I don't know, but he clearly doesn't view it that highly, does he?
Yeah, if he's leaving so quickly.
No, but he can change the narrative a bit. You're seeing the perspective of football changing a little bit. I think it went up a little too crazy where I used to see interviews of people saying, Christian Pulisic, he's the LeBron James of soccer. I used to see interviews like that back then when he was at Chelsea and whatever. I think that sort of went high, and now I think it's coming down a little bit. And I think what goes up must come down and vice versa. And I think we're slowly climbing back up to the stage where I think American fans are finding that balance of, okay, these are the players, this is where their level is at. With increase in ball knowledge, watching more football, fans are going to understand that. And why not change the perspective? Cavan Sullivan is the perfect player that can change the perspective in the next 5 years. He's got that I'm him energy. I saw him at that EAFC the event.
He was the guy. Yo, it was crazy. Cavan Sullivan,
Insane.
15 years old, had more clout than Clint Dempsey, all the guys walking in that building.
And he didn't give off the energy that he was this just cocky little kid energy. He came off actually very sort of mature, almost kind of woven from a similar, or maybe I shouldn't say this, but similar fabric of somebody like Jude Bellingham, a young player who everybody says he's super mature for his age. Cavan Sullivan gave me that energy at that EFC. I can't imagine. I was just sitting there watching him. He just carries himself so well, and he's got that factor that you need to become a face of a franchise, become a face of a league. And I think he can do that with Philly Union. He could do that in MLS before moving.
Let me ask you something, Tom. Do you think that if Cavan was European and he said that he would want to win the Ballon d'Or, do you think people wouldn't think twice about it?
People would laugh at him. People would laugh at him.
I don't think so, bro.
Yeah, they would, bro.
I don't think so, bro.
Anyone who knows anything about football hears a 15-year-old go, I want to win the Ballon d'Or, and goes, hang on, mate. You're talking about the award for the singular best player in football every year. Now, if it's 3 years down the line, he's 18, he's 19, whatever, and he's going, oh yeah, you know what, I think I could be at that level. Sweet. But he's 15, dude.
Do you guys think now that, with MLS, selling young players at such a young age to European teams when they turn 19, 20, do you think that's something that Americans should look to still do, or do you think they're fine developing in MLS?
I like the idea of switching things up. Why not develop in MLS? Just try it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, look, obviously it sounds crazy. Just try it. Of course, that sounds crazy.
Just give it a go, mate.
That sounds crazy, right? Because the prospect of getting a chance to play in Europe, nobody's going to turn that down. Of course not. But like you said, sometimes that thing doesn't help. The idea of going abroad so early, the idea of getting acclimated, adjusted to a brand new system, it is such a difficult thing. It's unrelated to football. Moving to a different country, learning the new language, eating different foods, all of it becomes such a massive challenge and a hurdle. And on top of what you were talking about, Tom, the pressures and all that stuff that you're talking about, it can actually hinder your progress.
When you go to Europe, no team is going to be taking care of you. The players on the team don't give a about you. They know that you're coming in to try to take one of their positions. You don't speak the language. No one wants to translate to the drills to you. It's like that over in Europe. So why not stay in MLS and develop here?